Jeremy, you've got an incredible history and background, and obviously from very small business, from very almost just business, all the way through to massive corporate. So, and the things that you've learned have been trained in the meantime. So, I'm very excited because we got a 4 week series coming up where you're going to cover a
Yeah.
whole bunch of stuff for us. In the first one, I love what you've put for our first topic here is why most sales conversions fail before they start. Before you get into that, I wanted to say one of the things you mentioned is at McDonald's, one of the first things they teach you is to smile. Like
Yeah,
simple things.
absolutely. And if we are often in a negative state before we even enter into interaction, probably two things. One, like we're also won't be resourceful if we're in a negative state. Like if we're having hunched shoulders, we're looking down at the ground and we're in that negative state, like usually what will happen the first time someone has any resistance, we usually just accept defeat and we just take it as a no. And when we're in like a resourceful state with like shoulders back, we're kind of smiling, we're going to be way more resourceful in being able to help someone in also like overcoming a challenge they might be having and actually answering some of the objections they might be giving us because we're actually paying attention to the customer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's something that as salespeople we don't, or not as salespeople, but in small business people who we didn't get into small business to be salespeople. And so these little hints are
Yeah,
going to help a
absolutely.
lot with where moving forward.
Like, I actually like to do it as an exercise to be able to understand that like what we focus on at an unconscious level is going to make a huge difference before even the sales interaction starts. Because if we're not managing our emotional state and our focus before we start, like we won't actually be very pleasant for the customers or the consumers to actually even be around. Like, I don't know about you, but if you've got someone who's kind of like not very interested in what they're doing, they're kind of already in this negative emotional state, like you don't want to be around someone who's like a downer.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a real estate agent. He had all these appraisals. He was only closing about 1 out of 4 of his appraisals, and he ended up going to about 3 out of 4. And I said, like, you're just doing numbers. You're going one sales call after another, and you're not like even in a positive, resourceful state, and you're just trying to get through the numbers. And I said, like, you've got to actually be in a positive emotional state and be resourceful and actually come from a place of like caring and have energy about you so the person actually wants to engage with you. And I like to give this as an example for most people because this, if you can change a state in physiology, it'll make a huge difference in sales. So, like, I want you to have a go at doing this. So, if you like look down at the ground and you punch your shoulders over, this is like a negative emotional like physiology. So if I say like I feel happy, I feel happy, I feel happy, like you'll notice you're actually still feeling negative. And if you like look at the roof and you have a big smile on your face and you actually say I'm depressed, I'm depressed, I'm depressed, you're actually feeling happy because like your physiology is like 55% and your tonality is 38%. So if you change your physiology and your tonality before you even start the interaction, it will make a massive difference in your sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%. And Tony Robbins hits on that very, very hard as well as fact is you don't change your mind with your mind, you change your mind with your body.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's definitely the fastest way to do it. If you can change your beliefs and values, that makes
Mm.
a massive difference because then you wouldn't be in a negative state to start with. But like we all have our down moments, and like if you can just make sure before you enter you're in a positive physiology, it makes all the difference. I want to share with you something that comes from a doctor called Dr. Andrew Hubbard, and his name actually he's a neuroscientist, and he did some amazing work with understanding the flow state. And I've been kind of teaching the flow state before I even heard about him. And I've taught a lot of professional athletes, from triathletes to swimmers to bodybuilders, lots of different. And when it comes to sales, I've taught sales professionals, people in business. I teach it in public speaking. And all you need to do is look up and fixate on a spot. And as you fixate on that spot, start to go into your periphery and start to notice the things in your periphery. And if you can stay fixated on that spot and widen your focus for at least 60 seconds, and like even focus on slowing your breathing down will just make it even easier. you'll actually start to calm your neurology, and you'll start to bring your attention back into the present moment. And if you look like someone like a tennis player, a lot of the times they get into like a losing streak because they haven't left the last point they lost behind. And they're thinking about stuff that's in the past. And if we can bring back our focus into the present moment, like we then can focus on the task at hand and what we need to do, and we put our attention back on the customer rather than focusing on something that we already lost. And there's something that's very important in sales, because we are getting usually more no's than yeses, and we can kind of get really hung up very easily on the no's rather than actually focus on what we're actually doing in the present moment. So I highly recommend find that spot and go into your periphery. This isn't an uncommon thing that most of you are experiencing. You've all done it when you've driven a car. Most of you are looking at the horizon and you're looking in your periphery, and you actually will find time will actually pass very quickly when you're in that state, because you are actually entering into a trance-like state. However, in that state, you actually are resourceful, and you'll actually do the things that you know you need to do, rather than kind of getting in that negative state where you kind of become unresourceful, and you kind of all that things that you know you should have done usually end up going out the window.
It's funny how that works, isn't it? You get into that state, and it's a relaxing, calming sort of state. Yeah. And it's interesting how you put those together, where you're sort of in a relaxed, calm state, but at the same time, you've got a really positive emotional aspect going on.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the times people are in like fight, flight, or freeze. And doing that is why some call it a learning state, or some even call it, but it really is the flow state that athletes use. Actually, when it comes to athletes like a boxer or a fighter, there's actually a saying is, if you make your opponent angry, you've already lost the fight. And the reason why is we actually get tunnel vision. And the second we get angry and have negative emotions, we're in tunnel vision. Then we actually don't see anything else around us, which makes us susceptible to getting hit from the side, which is actually kind of a good metaphor in sales. If you have tunnel vision and kind of in your negative emotions, you usually get hit metaphorically without even realizing it.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. A really good point. So to finish this particular podcast up, Jeremy, how would you summarize what people can actually do practically right now to go and increase their sales?
Yeah, so two things I would definitely start by. Before you start, go fixate on a spot that's above eye level and fixate on it, and widen your vision into periphery, and do that for like at least 60 seconds, okay? And then even focus on your breathing. If you like, even just breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, and exhale for 6 seconds. The longer exhale can be actually good to kind of like let go and relax, okay? And that longer exhale can actually be very useful in helping calm your neurology down. But breathing is one thing that can actually override your nervous system and actually put it back into parasympathetic nervous function, which is like a relaxed, calm state. Because when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, we're in sympathetic nervous function when we're like often stressed. And if we can put ourselves back in that calm, relaxed state, we are resourceful, and we're also in the present moment. And then when we're in the present moment, that allows us to have energy and engage with our customer.
Yeah, nice. Great points, great, easy, practical things. I'm going to put on there the smile one, because I think that's critical. A lot of people don't use that, and that's another great way, obviously, to get in that state. If you're smiling, like you were saying before, you're going to be happier. You're going to be more in that state. Now, this is obviously first of a series of 4, as we mentioned. Yep. Next podcast, I'm really excited about, because you're talking about why people aren't closing the deals. And probably things that they haven't even thought about. So I'm really excited about that. Thanks for joining us, Jeremy, and we'll catch you all on the next District 32 podcast, or D32 we are now, podcast.